Something is happening in NASCAR right now that honestly nobody saw coming. Not like this. Not at this scale. We are talking about one of the greatest drivers this sport has ever produced, a two-time Cup Series champion, and right now he is sitting on a 100-race winless streak. 100 races, no wins, and the clock is ticking. Because Kyle Busch is in a contract year, his future at Richard Childress Racing is completely up in the air. And the question everyone in the garage is quietly asking is this the beginning of the end, or is there still one more chapter left in this story? Stick with me, because by the end of this video you are going to understand exactly what is happening, why it matters, and where Kyle Busch could actually end up next.
Ryan Blaney has won his way into the championship.
A great day for Kyle Larson.
Seventh career win in his 100.
Joey Logano takes the checkered flag. Hell yeah, boys!
Let us get into it. Let us go back to late 2022 for a second. Kyle Busch leaves Joe Gibbs Racing after 15 years. He had 2 championships there. He had 56 wins with that team. And when he signed with Richard Childress Racing to drive the number 8 Chevrolet, a lot of people thought this was a smart move. A fresh start, a new challenge. And early on, it actually looked like they were right. In 2023, Kyle wins at Auto Club Speedway. Then he gets his 3rd win of the season by early June. At that point, it genuinely felt like a comeback story. Kyle Busch in new colors, with a new team, back in the championship conversation. People were excited, but then everything stopped. No wins for the rest of 2023, none in 2024, none in 2025. And now through the first 7 races of 2026, still nothing. That is officially 100 races without a win, the longest drought of his entire career. And to understand how crazy that is, here is some context. His previous worst stretch was 36 races, back between 2016 and 2017. That felt rough at the time. But 100 races, that is a completely different level of struggle. And it is not just the wins. Right now in 2026, Kyle Busch is sitting 24th in points. His best finish through 7 races this season is only 12th place, not a single top 8 finish. And according to every stat we have on his career, that has never happened at this point in any of his 21 previous seasons, not even during the tough years. So yes, this is real. This is serious. Here is what makes this even harder to look away from. It is not just about the winless streak. There is a pattern here that tells a bigger story. In 2024, Kyle Busch's 19-year streak of winning at least 1 race per season came to an end. 19 straight years. Gone. He also missed the playoffs in 2024, the first time he had missed them since 2012. Then 2025 came and went. Missed the playoffs again. And now in 2026, with only 7 races in the books, he is not looking like a contender, not even close right now. Here is the part that turns this into a real story though. Kyle Busch is in a contract year at Richard Childress Racing. He turns 41 years old this May, and now the conversation in the NASCAR world has completely shifted. It is no longer just, can he win again? It is, will Kyle Busch even be in the Cup Series in 2027? Now, age alone is not the issue here. We have seen drivers compete at a high level well into their 40s. That is not what this is about. The bigger issue is that Richard Childress Racing has not been on the same level as the top powerhouse teams for a while now, even before Kyle got there. So is this all on Kyle? Probably not. But NASCAR does not wait for anyone to figure things out. And with silly season expected to be way more chaotic in 2026 than it was in 2025, when only 2 full-time rides changed hands, things are about to get very real, very fast. Now here is something that gives this whole situation a little bit of hope. The next race on the schedule is the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. And if you know anything about Kyle Busch's career, you know what Bristol means to him. He has won there 8 times on the concrete. 8 times. That is his track. That is where he has historically been almost unstoppable. If there is any place where Kyle Busch can end this drought, where he can silence the critics, remind everyone what he is capable of, and flip the entire narrative, it is Bristol. But the pressure going into that race is unlike anything he has faced in a long time, because at this point, it is not just about a win. It is about proving that there is still a future worth fighting for. So let us talk about what actually happens next. If Kyle Busch does leave Richard Childress Racing after 2026, where does he go? There are 5 real possibilities being talked about right now. Option 1, he stays at Richard Childress Racing. Look, it sounds unlikely based on everything we just talked about, but it is not completely off the table. There have been small bright spots during this stretch, and if they can find more consistency, maybe Kyle decides to stick it out for one more year. Still, this feels like a long shot right now. Option 2, Spire Motorsports. And honestly, this one makes a lot of sense. Spire has Carson Hocevar locked in long-term in the number 77, but beyond that car, nothing is really set in stone. Michael McDowell is 41. Daniel Suarez is basically in a prove-it situation after moving over from Trackhouse Racing, bringing a career total of just 2 wins across multiple organizations. But here is the key connection that makes this option so interesting. Kyle Busch sold Kyle Busch Motorsports to Spire after the 2023 season, and he has already been racing with them in the Truck Series. And winning. There is history there, there is chemistry there, and with his son Brexton Busch coming up through the racing ranks, this could honestly become a long-term family play that goes well beyond just one season in the Cup Series. Option 3, Hendrick Motorsports. Now this one sounds wild, but hear it out. Kyle Busch actually started his Cup career at Hendrick Motorsports over 20 years ago. A return there would depend heavily on what happens with Alex Bowman in the number 48 Chevrolet. Bowman has struggled with performance and has dealt with multiple health-related absences over the past few seasons. If Hendrick decides to make a change there, do they go with a proven veteran instead of a younger driver? And here is one more detail worth noting. HendrickCars.com has already been sponsoring Kyle Busch in the Truck Series through Spire. So the relationship exists. It is unlikely, but it is not impossible. Option 4, Legacy Motor Club. This one is interesting because of the Toyota connection. A return to Toyota through 23XI Racing, the team co-owned by Denny Hamlin, would have made a ton of sense, but that door currently looks closed. But Legacy Motor Club, as backed by Toyota and co-led by Jimmy Johnson and Richard Petty, is planning to expand to 3 cars in 2027. So if the door is closed with Denny Hamlin, could Kyle team up with 2 of the biggest legends in the history of this sport instead? That would be one of the most compelling storylines NASCAR has had in years. Option 5, stepping away from the Cup Series entirely, not retiring from racing. Kyle has been clear about this. He still wants to win a Truck Series championship, but possibly shifting his primary focus away from the Cup level. If that happened, he would instantly become one of the biggest title favourites the Truck Series has seen, especially running with Spire Motorsports. But let us be honest, that is probably not what most fans want to see. And it is probably not what Kyle Busch wants either. But the question right now is whether there is one more chapter left. One more run at relevance, one more team that believes in him enough to give him the right car. Or whether the sport is starting to move on. Drop your take in the comments below. I want to hear from real NASCAR fans on this one. And if this kind of honest, no-fluff NASCAR conversation is what you are here for, hit that subscribe button. We break this stuff down every single week.